Hello, my most amazing artists. Today, the first thing you're going to want to do is write your name and your class code on your clay mat. Next thing you're going to do is out of your clay bin, you can get yourself a lid, a cutting tool, maybe a couple of those, and a drawing tool, and a texture tool, so maybe a lid or something like that. Lots of tools, you don't have to worry about it yet. You already have a slab of clay that's been rolled out, so all you got to do is put your lid on top of there and use a cutting tool, tall like a soldier, to press and cut around. Reason is you want to make sure you go through all of the clay. So once you do that, you can peel away the extra clay. Extra clay still there. Go ahead, take your lid, put it back in the bin. You won't need that again. Smooth out any rough edges. That way you have it nice and smooth. Speaking of smooth, you want to turn it over. Have a nice smooth side. Then use your texture tools or your lid. You can use that to just make feathers, pressing down lightly on the bottom. Don't press too hard. We're not trying to make holes in the clay, just trying to make texture to show the feathers on our owl belly for the owl baby. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that middle section. Then I'm going to fold the wings. I'm going to go ahead, fold one wing over, and always pressing down. I'm going to go smoosh and smooth. Whenever I want something to stick, smoosh and smooth, I'm going to go ahead and smooth some more. I don't want any rough edges or cracks in my clay, knowing that that's going to be how it comes out of the kiln. I'm going to go ahead and press that other side down very nicely. Going to smoosh and smooth it. Smush and smooth. And then when I get to the head, I have my wings now, smooth, smooth, smooth. When I get to the head, I'm going to want to do something called scratch and attach, because just like when you don't brush your teeth every morning and every night, they might eventually fall out if you don't brush them. Well, guess what happens when you don't brush your clay? When you go to fold down that head there, what's going to happen if you don't scratch and attach it or brush it with a toothbrush is that it's going to fall right off, and it's not going to stick how you want it. So whenever you want something to stick, then you're going to want to do something called toothbrushing it or scratching and attaching. So I'm going to go ahead and scratch with my toothbrush, brush, just like I'm brushing my teeth, but with some disgusting mud. I'm going to go ahead and use that clay glue. It's basically all it is clay with water mixed in a cup to make a sort of clay glue. I'm going to scratch that on there, brush it on really good, scratch, 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 and then once I have enough texture on that and clay glue, I can attach. So don't forget to scratch and attach. Once you scratch and attach, you're going to smoosh and smooth. Smush and smooth it out. That way you have no clay bumps on there, and you can pinch those ears once you smush and smooth it onto there so that your head sticks onto the owl's body. Once I do that, I can smooth it out. If you ever need a little bit of water to get those cracks out, if your clay is getting a little too dry, then you can just get your fingers wet with that clay slip or the clay glue. I'm going to go ahead and pinch my owl's ears up a little bit more, smooth everything out. As you can see, I'm using my lid to press in some big owl eyes. If you don't quite like what you did, the good part about clay is you can always erase it. That's a good part about that water or clay glue too. You can always use that to help you erase. You don't want to get too much though, or you're going to make mud. So I'm just using my finger to smooth it out whenever I make a mistake. Once I like it, I'm making sure I'm not pressing too hard. We're not trying to make holes in the eyes, just have it lightly on the surface. Once I make my eyes, I'm going to go ahead and make a beak. I'm going to take a little tiny piece off my extra clay, and I'm going to pinch it into a 3D triangle or a cone shape. That cone shape is made by pinching and pushing. So once I make a beak, I have to do the other thing again to attach it. If I just stick it on there, it's going to fall right off. It might seem like it sticks now, but it's going to fall off right when it dries after school. And I'm going to say, I'm so sorry. I told you to brush your teeth or brush your clay or it was going to fall off. So make sure you scratch and attach or it's going to fall out just like your teeth would fall out if you didn't brush them. So scratch and attach with that clay glue. Then you're going to smush it on and smooth it out. Smoosh and smooth, smoosh and smooth. After you scratch and attach, of course. Once I get that beak on there and it's good to go, I'm going to do the wiggle test. The wiggle test is when I wiggle that beak or wiggle whatever I scratched and attached onto there. If when I wiggle it and I touch it with my fingers, if it starts to fall off or even wiggle, that means that when it dries, it's definitely going to fall off. So please do the wiggle test. Anything that you add, if it wiggles when you touch it, you're going to have to do a better job at scratching and attaching. When I'm using my clay tool, I'm using the back to push in the pupils of the eyes of my owl. Then I use a tiny, tiny toothpick. There might be one of those in your bin. You're going to have to share those tools because they're all different. They're very special clay tools. This one, though, is a toothpick. toothpick. It's the smallest clay tool possible if you want to make really tiny details, like for your owl eyes. You could add anything else you wanted to your owl, as long as you scratch and attach, and as long as you don't press too hard through your owl, because he's got to be as thick as a cookie, no thinner than a cookie, or he will break. I'm using one of my clay texture tools to scratch in some texture for more feathers on the wings. After I have it nice and feathery, I am pretty much done. But you could do whatever you wanted. There are so many different lines and designs you can make on your owl instead, and I can't wait to see what you create. But first, we got to talk about cleaning up a little bit. Oh, yeah, that wiggle test again. I think that's what I'm doing. I did my wiggle test everywhere. It's not going to fall off. If it wiggles, you know you might have to do a better job at that scratch and attach and that smoosh and smooth. Make sure that nothing falls off when you pick up that owl. Also, when you're picking up your mat, be super careful. It might stick to your mat. That's not good. You want to make sure you don't make any holes in your clay after you work so hard, so be super careful with your clay. Next thing is put back all your tools in the bin. Any extra clay, please pick up. It does not go home in your pockets. It goes back up to me on the clay cart. Super important because you don't have a kiln at home to bake it, and because another student needs that clay. Then, when you're bringing it up to me on the clay cart, hold it with 2 hands. Super important. I just showed you that. Hold it with 2 hands like a zombie, holding it when you bring it up. Then make sure you use a sponge in your bin to clean your area, return all clay tools back, and you're good to go. All right, artists, can't wait to see what you create today. Have fun with clay.